These Dudes on Games, Episode 2. All right, everybody. Welcome to These Dudes on... That music just gets me so pumped up.
It's a good song, isn't it?
It's great. I just love that intro. Welcome to These Dudes on Games, episode number 2. As always, I'm your host, Lloyd Hannison. And joining me, my faithful co-host, Jeff Ward. Jeff, how's it going?
Pretty good. And yourself tonight?
It's doing good. I just ate like my body weight in meat, so I'm happy.
I did pretty much the same thing with pizza tonight, so I am just like essentially sitting here drinking water because it's the only thing that's going to go in there right now.
My wife has an obsession with garlic, so we had pork chops with like souvlaki sauce, so they were like super garlicky. She made like a Greek salad with garlic. We had garlic toast. Like I'm surprised my little like dust cover on my mic, my windscreen isn't melting at the garlic dragon breath that I have right now. So good thing this is a video podcast or an audio podcast and not a in-person show, because I might scare people away.
Yeah, it's also good that this isn't, Spy Kids 4D and smell-o-vision as well, too, because that would be brutal.
But in reality, that would never be a good thing for the show.
No, it would not. It's a very smelly show. You don't know it because you're just listening to it, but it's a very smelly show.
Yes, exactly. Garlic-covered lovely gameness or something. All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining us for yet another episode of These Dudes on Games. Hopefully you found this show through iTunes or just through listening to it on one of the other feeds over at vgpodcast.com. Maybe you're a Touch of Gaming listener if you're an iOS player, or you're a Nintendo Pulse listener if you like the 3DS or the Wii or any other Nintendo system. If not, welcome anyway. We accept everybody that wants to listen to us.
All comers are welcome.
Exactly. So if you're not familiar with this show, since this is only the second episode, I thought we'd get into a little bit what this show is. Jeff and myself are both big gamers. Jeff more than me because I have 2 kids, and I have about 15 minutes a day where I actually am not sleeping with the kids or at work. So maybe it's not that bad, but yeah, it's I don't have as much time to play games as I once might, even though I did put 140 hours into Skyrim and I'm still not even completed. I got to put that back into my system and finish that one up.
Absolutely.
But we're both gamers and we love games. We love podcasting, and we thought, hey, this is a nice little marriage of our hobbies, and we wanted to do a show together.
Yeah, so because there wasn't enough gaming podcasts out there, we decided to throw our hat into the ring as well too.
Is there another game? I think this is the only one.
There might be one.
Someone on the street told me this is the only one. So here you go, guys. So yeah, we're gamers, and this is going to be just a weekly episode, half hour, whatever strikes our fancy. Whatever. If it's a busy news week, obviously it's going to be longer that week than another one. But we're just going to talk about the big news stories of the week. We're going to get into some quick hits, hopefully some reviews, some listener feedback, emails. We'd love to answer your questions. Hell, we'd even love to do gaming nights in the future where we pick a game and get in with the community, maybe record some of that stuff and put it up as video feeds as well. So right now it's only video. Jeff's a videographer, so he does video stuff, so I'm going to rely on him to make the video look awesome, and we're going to put that up on the website, put it in YouTube, and do lots of other things as well. So it's exciting times here at vgpodcast.com.
Very exciting, and I'm glad to be a part of it.
Awesome, and I'm glad to have you, Jeff. So let's get into this one for episode 2. Jeff, what you been playing lately on your consoles?
Oh, man. So there's been a lot over the last, essentially since the last podcast a week ago. That night when we were finished recording, I went and beat Mass Effect 3. So, wow. I sat there at, there's a no spoilers here, so don't worry, but there's a point in the story where essentially they tell you, once you start this mission, you have to finish it out. Like essentially play through the end. There's no going around doing any side missions. You're just committed to the final assault, basically. So I sat down, played through the rest of the game, which was about 3.5 hours, and I got to the ending, which is a story that we'll talk about a little bit later in the show. And because this game is just so heavy in sentiment and in emotion, and it's one of the most emotionally exhausting video games I've ever played, I needed to take a brain break from that afterwards. It's just, there's so much death and destruction, and it's very emotionally taxing on your brain. So after that, I was like, I gotta play something more chill. So I like last week. I've been still playing a ton of MLB The Show 12 on the PS Vita, really getting into that, and just kind of playing more chill games. And I've been playing Call of Duty, which isn't really chill, but it's a less taxing experience on your mental faculties than playing a game where the entire Earth is at stake and everybody's survival rests on your decisions. And so through that, I picked up a game this week called Cabela's Shadows of Katmai on the Xbox 360.
So
and for those,
is that Cabela's like the hunting store Cabela's?
Yeah,
the outdoorsy Cabela. Really?
Yeah, that's
Wow.
I don't know anything about the guy, but I believe there's someone who is. I believe his name is Cabela in some kind of aspect or whatever. I don't know any of the research on this guy, but he. There's a line of sporting goods that are based around hunting. So, guns and archery and, all that kind of accoutrement with hunting. But then there's also this line of video games, the most well-known of which are Big Game Hunter, which are actually really fun. The Big Game Hunter game on the GameCube is a blast if you like just walking out into the wilderness, tracking animals with, footprints in the ground and little tufts of hair that are on trees and stuff. It's a really, really fun game. But they've since, well, I don't think they've ever made a ton of money off the games, but I guess they haven't made a lot or, not as much as they wanted. So they put this kind of hybrid game together where there was a story mode about you getting in a plane crash and having to survive on this mountain and having to hunt for your food. And it's, takes the action elements of the other Cabela's games with hunting and scavenging and turns that into a survival story and then uses the platforming climbing aspect of Uncharted. So these three things together is actually really, really cool. Like on paper, it's like, yeah, I'm all into this game. It looks awesome. It's going to be gritty. And yeah, it just sounds like a fun time. It's not even close to anything I would consider a fun time. Without this being a full review, essentially the game is based around a light gun shooter, and I have gameplay of it too. So whenever you want to show it is fine.
Sure.
Essentially, there is your reticle, which is on the screen at all times, and you have to use on the Xbox. You have to use the right stick to control the reticle, and your left stick is your movement. So you're running around, and usually with your back to enemies, and you've got the gun kind of like strung across your shoulders in a weird, awkward way, and you have to shoot everything that moves. You get so much ammo. There's no real survival aspect because you're sent on weird missions where you have to hunt 3 moose to survive. But you kill a bunch of wolves on the way, and I'm not quite sure why you just don't use their meat and kind of cut the difference of having to trek across a half mountain just to feed some guy who ends up saving you. And the story is all over the place. The story is actually about a viral outbreak on this mountain, and this doctor is sent in to try and cure it.
Okay.
It's insane the kind of lengths they go to make an interesting story. And the cinematics look terrible, and the voice acting is just brutal, and the gameplay is some of the worst I've ever played. It took me less than 3 hours to beat the entire campaign on the second to hardest difficulty, and they give you achievements for everything. There were times when I was getting achievements for things I didn't even know I was doing right, and it's really hard to die. I didn't die until the last act of the game, and it was because I didn't know I was supposed to do something because the on-screen action was taken up by this big bear that was trying to kill me. Less than 3 hours, 660 gamer score, a ton of, achievements. It was ridiculous, and it's just one of the hardest games I've ever tried to control. But for some reason, I had a blast. I was laughing my butt off the whole time playing this game because it's just so ridiculous. It's so poorly put together. And, it ended up costing me like $9 after a trade-in of another game. So it's not like I lost anything on the deal. And when I traded it back, I ended up getting that EB Games bump up promotion. So I ended up getting a $30 trade-in off of a $20 game. So
nice.
Yeah, I didn't really lose any money off of it. It's just, one of these games that shouldn't have been made. And I'm not sure if the developer team was young people who had never developed a video game before, but it's very amateurish. The graphics are good from far, but far from good. And if you're watching the video here on the stream here, you'll see the horrible shooting mechanics in a few seconds as all these wolves just try to attack me, and it's just absolutely terrible.
I love how easy the achievements just pop up.
I know, it's crazy. I mean, this is a point in the game where I've been playing for 5 minutes, and I've already unlocked 3 achievements, and they're all worth 30 points apiece.
Wow.
And it's crazy. I mean, less than 3 hours, and I have 660 gamer score. And it's really hard to die. And when the wolves get close, you just click on the right thumbstick and smash them with your shovel. It's insane.
Wow.
I would highly recommend staying away from this game. Unless, maybe if you have the light gun, it's a little bit more fun, but I really don't see it being the case. If you have disposable income and you want a lot of gamer score really fast and then trade the game in, this is a pretty good one to pick up, but it's just not worth any kind of money. If you can find it for $5, then get it.
The in-game models of this guy talking to you right now looks really well done.
Oh, it's brutal. I mean, the lip syncing is awful. It's like I don't even think he really closes his mouth, and like the eyes are dead, and I didn't expect it to be some sort of fantastic survival game, right? But I expected it to have something in the grounds of or in the same ballpark as good.
Right.
And it just didn't deliver on anything. It's just, completely off the wall crazy. But then sometimes I feel like they're almost trying to make a bad game on purpose. It's just weird because there's no way you could write or deliver this dialogue and think that, oh, what I'm doing, people are going to enjoy.
Cabela's is trolling the gaming public for some strange reason.
And it's unfortunate. I don't expect anything stellar from a company that sells hunting equipment, right? But, Big Game Hunter was a very enjoyable game. It was a different kind of game that I had never played before, and on the GameCube, it was a solid experience. But, at this point, the Cabelas series should just, stop, essentially. I didn't see them making any money off of this game, which is unfortunate. So what I did was I bought the game on Monday, and then on Tuesday took it back because I was finished with it. And there's a bunch of other mini game stuff and shooting gallery stuff that I'm not interested in. More for if you have the light gun.
Right.
And I took it back to EB Games, and I picked up, which I had on pre-order, Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City on the 360, which is a new Resident Evil game. Been pretty excited for it. I really like the trailer, and the game isn't great. And it's borderline good, but because I'm a huge hardcore Resident Evil fan, it's essentially my favorite video game series of all time, it's easy for me to get into. I would not recommend this if you're just looking for a good shooter because the mechanics are really different. The controls take a while to get used to, and a lot of what I play is shooters. Right. And even for me, it's trying to get into this thing, it's tough. And but if you have a squad to play with, the game is centered around co-op. Playing with other people, it's really fun because you have to work tactically, and blowing away zombies in this game is very satisfying. It's more satisfying than Left 4 Dead because you get to see their arms come off and their heads blow up, and it's really, really cool. And there's a lot of good Resident Evil lore in there, but I would shy away if you're not a Resident Evil fan because it's just a subpar game built around this Resident Evil mythos, which I really enjoy, but not everybody does.
Right. Yeah, I've heard some bad things online. People are saying that it's definitely not a game that you should get unless you really love Resident Evil. Yeah,
and I do, and I'm really excited for 6, which I believe comes out this year in Q4 this year, so around Christmas time. But this game, IGN really panned it. They said absolutely do not buy it. But again, I'm a big Resident Evil fan, so I feel like I'm getting my money's. It was $30 for me because I traded another game towards it.
Right.
I feel like I'm getting my money's worth here. For $60 though, if you're just buying it right off the shelf and you don't have a trade-in, absolutely not. Even if you're the biggest Resident Evil fan in the world, it's not worth it. It's just too expensive for a subpar game. And Capcom didn't actually have that big of a role in making the game. They were just producers. I believe Slant 6 is the developing company.
Okay.
And I've heard of them before, but I don't know anything that they've done, so it's kind of tough for me to even recommend going to look at other works from them because I just don't know. It's a fun game for me, but like I said, I'm a huge Resident Evil fan, so it's kind of a given. Right. And then the last thing I've been playing is I've been going back to Skyrim, and I've already beaten the campaign, but I beat it pre-level 20, essentially. I just, ran through and played the entire story in only a few sittings, but I didn't do any of the side missions, and I'm now realizing that there is literally hundreds of hours of things to do outside of the main storyline, which is very impressive.
Yeah.
And like I said, when I'm playing Mass Effect, that's a very heavy game, and Skyrim's also very heavy. But it's easy to kind of just relax and get lost in just walking around the world.
Yeah.
It feels like you're on a camping trip, and with the windows open too, and you get like a breeze coming in with the fresh air. It's really cool. I got my headset on, looking at the TV, window open. It's a really nice game to play. And like, if you don't have that by now, what are you doing with your life?
The game is so good. I mean, as I said earlier, I spent 140 hours on it, and I haven't even really touched the main campaign. I got I don't know, a little bit into it, and then I hit a bug with one of my quests when complete. Apparently, one of the later patches have fixed it, but I kind of got to that point. It's like, okay, I've spent 140 hours in, and I'm stuck. So let's just put it on the shelf for a little bit and get back to it. So I got to do that because I love it. I played Oblivion. I played all the DLC for Oblivion. My save game's about 200 hours. I know this one's going to be even more, and that's even without any of the DLC. Skyrim is just amazing. Like, just wandering, like delving into dungeons, killing things. I remember walking across the world and running into the Headless Horseman, which is like this ghost dude on a horse, and I ended up following him. Well, yeah, he was just going through the game, and I
didn't even know that.
I was like, what the hell? So I followed him, and he's on a horse, so he's going fast. I didn't have a horse, so I'm like sprinting and then cutting across the field, letting my stamina meter fill back up, and then sprinting again, catching up to him. And eventually he goes to, I guess, his grave, and he stands there and stares at it for a bit, and then he just disappears. And I'm like, that is so random. It doesn't do anything with the game. Like, there's no reason for it, but I love it.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Just like when you come over a hill and there's like a dragon fighting a giant, and it's just like, I'll stand there and watch that. It's such an amazing game.
It was my game of the year last year, and it's something that on the bonus stage, the radio show I do, Tom and I talk about it a lot. And for me, I actually didn't like Oblivion at all. I felt like, once I bought it for the 360, got out of the sewer, which is the main part of the game, and then the world opens up to you, and then I just stopped playing. It couldn't capture my interest, and I didn't think it was a very enjoyable experience for me. I know it's a great game, but I just didn't like it. Right. And I felt like this game was the perfect marriage between, because it's hard for me to get into a fantasy game. Right. The perfect marriage between a really good fantasy game and a really addictive RPG, like first-person almost shooter hybrid. And I'm a big Fallout fan, so from Fallout 3 to New Vegas, huge fan of that series. Literally did everything you could and got every achievement in Fallout 3 across all pieces of DLC. I ate that world up, and they did carry a lot of what worked over there into Skyrim, and then made what didn't work really well. Phenomenal game. It really is one of the best games ever made. Yeah, no, I fully agree with you there. So yeah, that's what I've been playing. It's been a big week. I've had a lot of time just to sit at home and play video games. So I can tell. I'm insanely jealous. Well, let's get a little bit into what I've been playing. I'm actually eagerly waiting the release of Kid Icarus, which is coming out this Friday. So it's Wednesday night that we're recording this. The show will be out tomorrow. So the day after the show hits the feeds, I'll be picking up a copy of Kid Icarus and playing it and loving it. Friday's a weird release date. Nintendo always releases their stuff weird, like Sundays. They usually do Sundays. Yeah, it's bizarre. So I assumed that it was out last Sunday or this Sunday, and then I looked, I'm like, 23rd? That doesn't make any sense. And sure enough, that's when it is. So I basically went to EB Games last week, and I put down some money on that game, and picked up a Skylander figure for my daughter that she's been looking for it because I kind of like Skylanders at the same time. But I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh, what's this game? Oh yeah, I remember this game. So I picked up a copy of Crush 3D. I don't have the box art. It's actually behind me on my shelf, but it doesn't matter. And basically, I remember Crush 3D back before the 3DS, where it was a game where you can actually rotate the world and crush it from 3D to 2D. So you might be going through a world and you're in the normal plane, and you might see this platform that's way in the distance, and it's like, how do I get to it? You hit a button to crush the world, and then it turns into like a 2D side scroller. Cool. And I remember hearing about that, and I wanted it. So it came out on the 3DS. It's a budget title, so it's $20 at GameStop in the US. I think it's
$25 or $30 here. It's a GameStop exclusive, so I think they're the only place even in Canada that is carrying that game. So I picked it up, opened it up, and was happy to see that there's Club Nintendo voucher inside of it, so I can actually get Club Nintendo coins. So I was like super stoked. I'm like, this is going to be the best thing ever. It's published by Sega, so of course it's going to be great. Plopped it in, and not so much.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, it's basically, as you get into the game, basically you're a kid, and your best friend is this old dude who's like this mad scientist, and he calls you his friend / guinea pig, and you're like, guinea pig? And it's like, oh no, not a guinea pig, and it has this crazy story about it, which is inconsequential. It doesn't really even matter. But basically, what he does is he puts this little helmet on your head, and the helmet basically allows you to go into your own consciousness to basically work out any problems that you have, which is a kind of a weird setting for a game. And basically what happens is he created this machine called Crush, and what that allows you to do is view something in your brain and then crush it from 2D to 3D. And the levels basically revolve around you, the dude. You're in a house coat, by the way, like a robe, like you have this like smoking jacket on. It's like really weird. And basically as you roam around the levels, you are basically collecting marbles because you lost your marbles. Haha.
Oh wow, good joke game.
Yeah. And basically what you can do is view the world from 5 directions. So you basically can rotate. It's like it's a cube, so you can rotate any of the 4 sides and then above. And you can basically jump around and then hit a button to crush. And depending on what kind of square you're on, you have to be on like a normal kind of dirt sort of square to be able to crush it. Otherwise you get hurt. There's bricks. If the world's crushed, you can't pass by the bricks, but in the 3D world you can. So the first few levels are more like a tutorial, and I'm like, hey, this isn't too bad. Rotating around the world. In each world, beside the marbles, there's like a little there's a book that you can get and a trophy, and all those things unlock extra features like pictures and other things like that. And I'm like, oh, this is awesome. And then I got to like the 3rd level, and they introduced a new mechanic, which was like jumping and ducking. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I can rotate, crush, jump, and duck. That's great. 2 more levels. They introduce another bit of functionality where there's like pushable objects. 2 more levels. They introduce something else. 2 more levels. They introduce something else. And it just keeps going. And I'm like, is this like a big tutorial, or is this the whole game? And it turns out that this is the whole game. What they're doing is they're constantly adding more stuff to make the puzzles so difficult and convoluted that I basically got to one part and just said, yeah, that's it. I'm done with this game. Took it on my 3DS. It's on my shelf, and I probably will never touch it again. I might actually even go and trade it in at EB Games. Do you get $30 for even DS titles? 3DS titles?
They have this thing called like a bump up program where if you put the game towards like a game that's $60, you get $30 for it.
Yeah, it's a weird thing that they do here in Winnipeg because of the cops were cracking down on people selling stolen games to EB Games. So you can only trade 1 game per 1 game or 1 console per 1 console. So what they do here is they boost up the price of games. I think if you get $8 trade in, they'll bump it up to $30 or something. Is that what it is? Something like that? Something
like that. I think it actually might be $20, and if you get 15 of trade, you get 30.
Okay.
But again, they're constantly changing it to make it seem like we're not getting screwed. This is something that it's not GameStop's fault or EB Games' fault, you know. And I feel bad for them because a lot of people, and I was one of them a couple times where it was more advantageous for me when I didn't have to pay for gas and it was just my dad driving me around to take my games and go to Steinbach and go to an EB Games there and trade them all in because the laws aren't they're different. So I didn't have to worry about, I just trade in a stack of games and get a stack of money for it and not 1 for 1. And it sucks for them because trade-ins are, I want to say, at least 55-60% of their business is trade-in stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and they make a lot of money off of that. And now, they're still making a lot of money. Let's not beat around the bush. They're still making a lot of money off of trade-ins. It's just that when people come in and want to trade in a stack of games and get 1 or 2, they can't do it, and a lot of people get mad.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's a really weird rule that we have here, but it allows us to basically buy games like you did for super cheap and then get more in trade-in, which is like some weird. I think it like defeats the laws of physics or something. I don't know, I'm not sure about that.
The only downside is that while Resident Evil might be worth $25 trade today, tomorrow it could go down to 20 or 18. and they're constantly changing, even on an hourly basis, what games are worth based on reviews on the internet,
Right.
and just overall, just how much money people are buying, or sorry, how many new copies of the game people are buying across the stores across Canada. So it's a very volatile system.
Right. Yeah, exactly. There's a couple websites that track all that stuff as well. But anyway, I'm probably going to be trading this one because I'm done with it. I don't know, 8, 10, 12 levels in, something like that. I don't even care to look again. And yeah, the game, it's not good. Even for $20, there's a better game on the 3DS called Pushmo, where you're basically pulling blocks in and out of a level. There's 3 levels that you can push them in and out. That game is so much better, and it's like a $6 downloadable title. So yeah, I don't know. Crush 3D, not a huge fan of it. I'm not even going to beat it, which is rare for me. I want to beat every game that I buy, and this one, not so much.
It sounds a lot like Paper Mario.
Yeah, kind of.
In concept, like you have to kind of go from 2 to 3D to kind of traverse the level.
Yeah, you would think so, but it's just,
not even
it
close.
Sucks. It's terrible. I don't know what they're thinking. Sorry if the developers hear this ever, because they listen to this podcast apparently.
Well, you shouldn't be sorry, because they should know that they're putting out something that is an inferior product.
Yeah.
I mean, good intentions can only go so far, right?
Very true.
If you put your money down, and granted, you said it was what, $20 or $30, right?
Yep.
That's not a huge amount of money, but that's still money out of your pocket, and you never want to feel like you got screwed.
Especially when a game like Kid Icarus is $40, and that comes out like on Friday, and I know that game will be better than like the 15, 20 minutes that I played with this one. So besides Crush 3D that I picked up, I'm looking forward to Kid Icarus this Friday, but also been playing a lot of stuff on iOS, of course, since I do an iOS review show. Been playing a game called Flight Control Rocket. It's kind of the sequel, or more of a spiritual successor than a sequel, to one of the original like breakout titles on iOS called Flight Control, basically where you're drawing lines from planes to have them land. This is Flight Control Rocket, which takes place in space, which is funny because Angry Birds Space is coming out this week as well. So I guess space is the next big theme. And in Flight Control Rocket, they've changed up the formula a little bit. You have multiple lives, so it's not just one crash and you're dead. There's multiple different types of ships, so it's not just the red plane and the yellow plane and the green helicopter. There's multiple different classes in each of those colors. There's special ships that will sometimes launch other ships or drop things across your world. So pretty neat. You have these AI robots that help you out in the game as well. But the problem with this one is it's a game that costs $1, so it's not free, but it's very much reliant on in-app purchases. So they want you to buy batteries to keep your robot buddies powered so they can help you out, and they want you to buy gems which increase your multiplier and stuff like that. So I got past a few levels, and I'm just like, you know what, I don't want to buy in-app purchases for a game which I paid $1 for. If it's free, it's so weird. Like the psychological thing in my brain is just I don't understand it. If the game's free, I'll easily drop $5 on in-app purchases in a game because it's expected. They put out an awesome game. I enjoyed it. I'll reward them with some of my money. But if I spend $1 for a game, it's like, I don't know what it is. I just don't want to give them any more money. I don't understand what that is, but that's just the way I am. So I don't know if I can be playing this game too much more.
Yeah, for me, it's kind of weird because when I play a game on the iPhone, if it's free, I don't want to pay anything for it ever. And I don't want to feel like, to get the ultimate experience, I have to put money down. Even if 99 cents is nothing, right?
Right.
But it is 99 cents that I could spend on an actual app in the store that, might be good.
That's right.
So it's kind of weird that way. But then also, if I pay for an app, I also don't want to buy any in-app purchases. However,
so you're just not a fan of in-app purchases.
Yeah, but then I think I'm a big fan of DLC, and that's kind of the same thing. Actually, in Mass Effect 3, in the multiplayer mode, you can accrue credits by killing guys and lasting to the final round and getting your exfil done and having everybody survive, and you can use those to buy weapons packs and ammo packs and all that kind of stuff for your next round. But you can also use Microsoft points to buy the top tier packs,
right,
which are 60 points and 80 points and 160 points, so $1 and $2. And I actually used a lot of leftover Microsoft points buying those, and I had no problem doing it. So I think just because I still view my phone as a phone.
Right. Yeah, that's probably the thing.
That might factor into my decision to like not want to spend any more money. I mean, it's already $88 a month to have this phone, right? So, the free apps are worth the $88, and I buy some here or there.
Right.
But pay 99 cents or $1.99 to have words with friends without ads. It's not worth it at that point.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, I would never do in-app purchase microtransactions for a game I spent $60 on. So I think we're just opposite in the way that we think about gaming.
Yeah.
Which is good, because it's going to make for some good discussion coming up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some other games that I've been playing. I picked up my wife a new iPhone 4S. She had an old 3GS. And while I was there, there's actually a game called Cars Appmates, which is actually these little cars that you put on your iPad and move them around, and it actually has those characters appear in game. So I picked that up for my kids, and I ended up playing with it a little bit too. So that was pretty cool. I'm going to do a full review of that on the Touch of Gaming show, but I wanted to mention it here just in case anybody is interested in that type of stuff. Head on over to vgpodcast.com and listen to the next episode of Touch of Gaming, because I'll be chatting about it at length.
That's one of those cool things about the iPad, right? Is that, even though it's a touch device, it's like a next level board game, and that you put actual pieces on it. That's really cool. It's like a hybrid.
Very sweet. Yeah, it's kind of rudimentary, of course. Like, it's not Skylanders, but at the same time, you're bringing like Lightning McQueen into the game just by putting the Lightning McQueen character down. I don't know how it does it, actually, to tell you the truth, because it doesn't. The cars themselves don't look any different, and they're basically like, it's touch, so they must be making some sort of contacts that I don't see. Maybe something in like the just below where the plastic is, but. At the end of the day, my kids are putting cars or Lightning McQueen and various characters on the iPad and playing with it, and it's pretty damn cool. So
that's awesome.
More of that will happen in Touch Gaming. I'll be talking about that one.
It's the future.
It is. It's really awesome. I can't wait till future devices have NFC support, because that's going to bring a lot more of that type of stuff. And last but not least, I gave it my all, and I started playing Mass Effect Infiltrator again. Picked it up, even though I complained so much about it in the last show, and I got about 2 more missions in, and I'm just like, I'm not even going to spend my $7 or cry about my $7 that I spent on this. I'm just going to put it on the shelf, and if they release a patch that makes the controls not suck, or like they're the worst controls ever, if they make it something worthy of me playing it, I will happily pick it up again. So I'm basically putting it on the shelf, and that's it. So that's 2 games that I started and failed at. I didn't pick good games this week.
But the well has not run dry yet on the App Store, right? Here's the big test, though. If you hate the game so much, did you delete it from your iPhone, or are you just having it sit there until a potential, hopefully, an update comes?
It's on my iPad, and it's a 64 gig iPad, so I don't need the space yet, but it's gonna be the first one that goes. I'm actually getting I ordered an iPad 3, and it should come in the next couple weeks, I'm sure.
Cool.
But it's only 32 gigs, so I'm looking at all the stuff on my iPad. It's like I'm gonna have to delete half the stuff to be able to sync my backup to my iPad 3. So that'll definitely go, because I don't care. I just don't care. That game is horrible.
Bad game.
It is horrible. All right, well, that's it for what we've been playing. Let's get into the news section of the show. Why don't you start it off there, Jeff?
Yeah, no shortage of interesting and exciting news this week. This actually happened right around like last week when we were just about to record the show. Essentially, if anybody knows Jeff Gertzman from Giant Bomb, he was a reviewer on GameSpot, and back about 5 years ago, 2007, he did a scathing review of a video game called Kane and Lynch Dead Men. And it's a game I played and kind of liked, but his review was absolutely on point. And he ended up giving it a 4.5 out of 10. But that's not what people had a problem with. Or sorry, when I say people, I mean IDOS, the developer of the game. IDOS had spent a lot of money advertising Kane and Lynch on GameSpot's site. They had banners and videos and little playthings that would come up on the sides. You can click and go to their website. And then, of course, when the game launched and Gertzman's review came out, it was 4.5 out of 10 for, Kane and Lynch. And Kane and Lynch is all over the front page. So they were very, very mad and put a lot of pressure on GameSpot higher ups to axe him essentially, and they fired him because he reviewed a game poorly, and that's first and foremost, that is awful that can actually happen. That is a scary thing, that the honesty and integrity of journalism in the video game industry is there, but if you say too many wrong things to someone, you'll get fired because they're an advertiser.
Exactly.
That does not sit well with me. But that was 5 years ago. And since then, he's went on to do bigger and better things with a really fantastic site that I love, and I'm a big fan of their podcast, the Giant Bombcast, giantbomb.com. And he has built a small empire, a very loyal group of followers. Lots of people come visit the site. They have video game journalists. They do some really fantastic reviews, and some of the most fun and interesting video series for video games that I've seen ever. And they're a really great website. And they were actually bought by
CBS Interactive.
Yeah, CBS Interactive, which also owns GameSpot. So all these guys that work for Jeff Kurtzman are going to be moving back into the same office that Kurtzman worked at when he was at GameSpot 5 years ago. GameSpot 5 years ago.
It's crazy. I was watching one of the live streams they did when they were announcing this. They're sitting around a kitchen table, eating pancakes. It was awesome. But they said that the first thing they said when Gerstmann was fired, and it was a couple of reviews. Basically, they had changed their numbering scheme, so game reviews were lower than they had been like months before. And he had a couple chats with the higher ups, and they told him to change it. He's like, no, this is the new thing. We all agreed on it, so we're gonna have to stick with it. And I guess Kane and Lynch was the last straw, and he left it. And he basically signed an NDA, so he couldn't talk about what happened. People figured it out because people talk. They figured out what happened. But when he started up Giant Bomb, and when he was basically conceiving this website, and everybody else was leaving GameSpot and coming over there, he's like, you know what's gonna be awesome in 10 years or 5 years or 3 years, we're either gonna buy them or they're gonna buy us, and we're gonna come back and we'll get the last laugh. And then sure enough, 5 years later, that thing happened. So pretty awesome. Good for him. I mean,
I'm a big Kurtzman fan. I think he's a very smart guy.
Yeah.
He knows video games through and through.
He's been doing it for so many years.
Yeah, and he's like just an honest guy, He wants people to, be honest in the industry, and that's what he is with his reviews, with the just way he speaks to people. And it was just, it really sucked that he got fired because of that, because he was just being honest. Maybe he should have chose the words differently, but it's just not fair. That's just, it's so, backhanded. But the fact that, he rebuilt himself from the ground up, made a brand new site that's head and shoulders better from where he came from, and then they bought him, is hilarious to me, and I'm a big fan of this story. Exactly.
Even more so, he's kind of the reason why Whiskey Media came to be, which was the company that owned Giant Bomb, and they owned a couple different websites. It was like Comic Vine, I think, was another one, and they had Tested, which was a really great video show about science and breaking things. And what they did is this Whiskey Media was basically split in two parts. The comics and video games were bought by CBS Interactive, and the other stuff went somewhere else. Tested, which is part of Whiskey Media, or was part of Whiskey Media, was actually bought and is now like Adam Savage's and Jamie Heinemann's from Mythbusters. It's their own site, and they're doing all these video casts there. So not only did Giant Bomb kind of spawn this new company, it created these amazing websites that are now like cornerstones and sold to other people. So he's a smart guy, and hopefully and hopefully CBS will keep their hands out of what Giant Bomb's doing, and he's still going to be real, and they're going to be doing like crappy gangster rap reviews and all this garbage that they do, which is funny, and everybody loves that likes Giant Bomb. They like it because of that, and hopefully they can keep their hands out and let Giant Bomb be Giant Bomb, and also Giant Bomb hopefully can make GameSpot a little better than it is right now.
That's actually one of the things that Kurtzman said in that like live stream when he was eating pancakes, which was just so funny in itself, that there was this huge piece of news, right? And they're just sitting around eating pancakes is almost a jab in itself.
Right.
But he did confirm that, Giant Bomb is going to be the same Giant Bomb. Nobody needs to worry. We would not have done this deal if it wasn't a 100% we have control of everything we say and do So I'm very happy for him because, like you just said, the site wouldn't be the same if he wasn't allowed to do what he's doing now, and it would be a detriment to the site and to him if he worked into a deal where he wouldn't be able to do that or not do it as often.
Right, exactly. Cool. All right, moving on. This piece of news actually made me really happy and then really sad. Before Christmas, there was this leak of a company, I think it's called Blaze. They make a bunch of accessories and stuff like that. And they apparently were making something called the NeoGeo X, which is this little portable of the NeoGeo console that came with some flash memory that it contained a whole pile of NeoGeo games. It had this little 3.5-inch LCD screen, and it looked like an iPhone. It was like steel on the outside and black. Actually, it looks like an iPhone, not my iPhone in a Winnipeg Jets case, an actual iPhone. And it had this little analog stick and buttons, and I'm like, I want this, give it to me. And then they basically said, no, we're not looking at this. Don't worry, it might have been an artist rendition, but it's not going to happen. So then I was sad. And then the news came out again that, in fact, it is happening, and you're going to get this console called the NeoGeo X, and it's going to be this portable with a built-in battery and a screen, and it's going to come with a bunch of games like Art of Fighting and Fatal Fury and King of the Monsters.
20 games, a ton of games.
Metal Slug, Sengoku, Samurai Showdown, some good Sam Show, and just great games that I love. I'm a huge Neo Geo fan. And I was excited again, and I'm like, I want to get this because I could never afford a Neo Geo. And then the price rumors happened, and I just read an article where this console apparently is going to cost 500 British pounds. So when it comes over here, it's probably going to be like $699 for a handheld.
Crazy.
I hope that rumor is wrong.
A handheld that doesn't play next-gen games.
That doesn't do anything except come with games. Which, ironically enough, you could find a disc called the Neo Geo Collection for your Wii, which would you probably pay $5 in the bargain bin, and it has all these games in it. So
or get an emulator for free.
Totally. I own all the Neo Geo collections. I bought a bunch of them on the Wii. Again, I love Neo Geo. I love old arcade games. I made a MAME cabinet way back in the day, and I love the fact that I can actually buy these games, not just download the ROMs for free, but actually buy them and play them and own them. It's great. $500 is crazy, and that's $500 in pounds, which is like $1 million in Canadian money. So it's insane.
If you had that money to burn, buy a Wii, right?
I'd buy an MVS. I'd buy an MVS cabinet and then start buying the cartridges myself.
Yeah,
for that kind of money.
Yeah, or just save the money and put it in a down payment on a house or something. It's so expensive.
It's crazy.
And I agree that the device is really cool, right? And it does some things, like it's got a slot for an SD card, so you can add in more stuff. But it's just £500. That's insane.
I really hope that was some mistranslation or something, and that it's going to come out. If this thing comes out and it's $150 or maybe even $200. I'm kind of stupid enough to actually buy it for that kind of money.
No, that's pretty steep for
$500? No way, absolutely not. I love Neo Geo, but I don't love it that much. So we'll keep our ears to the ground and see if anything more comes from this. If nothing else, it's going to be another great console that I won't own. Again, just like I've never owned a Neo Geo before.
One of those ones you walk by at the video game store and you're just like, man, I wish I had that.
I still remember I was kind of an aside, even though we're at like 45 minutes here already, so this podcast is going to go long. But I was flying for a business trip, and I went to one of the, Discovery Channel stores or something down, it was in an airport, and they had the old Neo Geo Pocket Color that came with like 5 games in this blister pack. So obviously they were just blowing it away, and it was $50. And I was like, oh, I got to get this. But I didn't have enough cash on me. And I was like, do I want to buy this? I don't know. Should I go take out money? Maybe I'll put it on my credit card. I'm like, never mind. I'll come back and get it. I'm going to go for lunch and think about it. Well, I basically lost track of time. And after eating at like Chili's or wherever I was eating, I was like, crap, I got to run to my plane. And as I run by, I'm like looking at the Discovery store, and I'm like, I will have you at some point, Neo Geo Pocket Color. And then I kept on running. Sure enough, I didn't get it. I ended up getting one down the road from, bought it at a garage sale of all places, but didn't have all the great games that were in that blister package. So
that's too bad.
This might be another Neo Geo portable that I'll be running by it while I'm in an airport somewhere. And
it's not to be.
It will not be mine.
Oh, so yeah, moving on. The next story, I found this. I was just browsing Kotaku daily, like I do, and this story hit me. It's this guy on eBay is selling his entire video game collection, and he is pricing it as $35,000.
What?
Yeah, very, very expensive. Now, I mean, there are pictures of the games, and it's a very impressive collection. It's in a nice cabinet. They're all in boxes, and he's even got the big Earthbound box there. Got a bunch of Game Boy Advance games, a lot of Sega CD games, and, they're really well kept. $35,000, though. That's a lot of money to spend on games. And while the collection is impressive, it's way overvalued. I don't think this guy understands the price of retro games. I mean, some of those games are actually quite rare. Earthbound in that big box is very rare, complete. There's also a couple of games up there like Sudoku 2 and Snatcher is another one that the article highlights that are also quite rare. But the rest of them, handful of games might be over $10. And it's, he doesn't have 35,000 games there. And one of the things I really like about the article is that Kotaku lists a bunch of things that you can also buy with 35,000, and they are a new car, a down payment on a house, 538 new console games,
Oh, great.
two months rent in a Manhattan apartment, 35,000 chocolate bars, 7 engagement rings, and a full-time intern to act out the entirety of Earthbound so you don't have to buy it.
Yeah, or you could buy 70 copy or 70 handhelds of the NeoGeo X and
exactly.
and just sit on them, use them as a bed. That would be good too.
Yeah, it's way too much money, but it's interesting to see how people value things. They're just way overvalued. It's crazy.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that do that. They put like a whole collection, like a whole NES collection on eBay, and they ask stupid amounts of money, and a lot of times they get it. So I'll be curious to see what this guy gets. That's a lot. That's a lot of games, and that's a lot of money. I mean, 35 grand. Yikes.
Ouch.
All right, moving on. This is one that I'm really excited about. I'm a huge Walking Dead fan. The season 2 just ended. I guess it's season 2, the second half or whatever.
Yep.
Some great stuff happening. I'm actually trying to find all the comics so I could read up on that stuff because
I have them all if you want to borrow them.
Oh, I hate you. But yes, I would like to borrow them. But anyway, I'm obsessed about everything Walking Dead. Well, Telltale Games was rumored to be making a Walking Dead game. They kind of announced it, but then went into silence mode. They just released details this week that The Walking Dead is going to be coming out. It's going to be hitting consoles in April. So you're going to be able to download it on the Xbox 360, the PlayStation 3, or the PC. If you are buying it on the PC, you can actually go to their website now and get, I think it was like 20% off or something. So you can pretty much buy 4, get 1 free of these games. It's going to be available on iOS as well. They released an iOS trailer, and basically it's like the other Telltale games, so point and click adventure is what they've done before. This one looks to be a little bit more actiony, but
it would have to be though, right? I mean, it's. I don't think it's the right universe to have a touch and click adventure.
How can you point and click zombies? I mean, they might be slow, but they're not that slow.
Yeah.
And the art style looks really cool. It looks almost like a hand painted comic, so it looks like the front of a graphic novel for whatever, but it's come to life. Like you have to watch the video to really see what I mean with that. I'm going to link to it, of course, in the show notes. It is great, and they've also said that I guess it's not Telltale, it's another company I believe that's working on it, but there's going to be a social game that's going to be coming on Facebook as well. So if you, like me, were like just amazed with the finale of The Walking Dead for this season and don't want to wait till the fall for the rest of the stuff, and you don't have all the comics like Jeff over there, there's going to be some great games coming out in the near future. So I'm really looking forward to playing some Walking Dead.
Yeah, and the pedigree of Telltale Games is actually very high. They started with the Back to the Future video games, and they are fantastic. I've only played the first 2 episodes, which I got for free because they had a special promotion.
Right.
And I was blown away by the voice acting, by just the presentation. It's nice, this cartoony look.
Yep.
It really does capture Hill Valley in the Back to the Future universe. So
and Michael J. Fox's brother did the voice of Michael J. Fox in that game, which is kind of cool because Michael J. Fox doesn't want to ever do impersonations of himself again. He doesn't ever want to do voiceovers. So his brother, which sounds a lot like him, does that. It's
the guy did a really good job.
And they also did like Sam and Max and a bunch of other ones. They did the Homestar Runner games, which I played on the Wii and loved. This is only going to be good, and there's going to be 5 games. It's going to be episodic. I believe 1 a month is what they're aiming for. So pretty much from now until the TV series comes out again for season 3, you can be playing episodes of The Walking Dead, and I will.
I'm absolutely going to get the first one on the 360. Hopefully, if it's good enough, I'll buy the rest. But if you keep listening to this show, you're definitely going to hear some reviews about it because I'm super pumped for it.
Yeah.
Also, I'm really excited to see where they take the Facebook game. I'm really shocked that I'm saying that because I hate Facebook games. But this is something that I could actually see myself playing, working together with friends on Facebook, fighting off the zombies. That actually might be very interesting. The social aspect is something that I'm quite interested in.
And cool, Reflux in the chat room just says if you play all the way to the end of the series of Back to the Future games, Michael J. Fox, not to be confused with Michael J. Fax, apparently, he actually lends his voice to a character in the game as well. So
that's awesome.
His brother does his voice and he does another voice, which is, I don't know, some black hole of awesomeness must open up when you do that. I can't wait to see that.
There are 4 episodes of the Back to the Future one, so maybe I'll have to go back and get the other 2 just for the because he's saying that if I go back all the way to the ending, I won't regret it. So
I can't wait. I have them all on my PS3. I should go finish them.
Nice.
Yeah.
And last up today for news, and this is a big one, so we won't try to talk too much at it, but there's been a huge amount of backlash for the Mass Effect 3 ending. And again, no spoilers here. Yeah, no spoilers here. I actually quite enjoyed it. There are some problems and some things that I wish, weren't the actual story, but
right.
The ambition to create an ending that incorporates every tiny decision you've made over the course of 2 and then of course this 3rd game is, I think, impossible. I think that they set themselves up for a situation that was nearly impossible, and I'm very impressed with how well they tied things together and made your decisions count in the story in Mass Effect 3.
Mm-hmm.
And the ending, it does have a little bit of problems, but I'm fine with it. Now, I am in the minority on that because there is a slew of people on the internet, because the internet is, essentially the breeding ground for the brightest people on the face of the planet.
Yeah, that's where they all go.
Yeah, they have bound together to create these ridiculous, and in my opinion, ridiculous petitions where people need to sign up, commit their name and their digital signature and say, BioWare, you ruined Mass Effect 3 and I know better than you because I spent $60 on your game and I'm entitled to free DLC that's going to fix it. And just mind-blowing whiny babies who are entitled to everything because they spend $60. Not, of course, taking into account that the game, before the ending that they have so much trouble with, is one of the best video games ever made. And if I was to put together a list of my top 10 favorite games, I would have to put 1, 2, and 3 Mass Effects into one group, and they would be in the top 3. Because those games they need to be grouped together because you can't judge them singularly. They are an entire experience that was broken up. And it's unfortunate to see this, but in the face of all this criticism, the executive producer Casey Hudson has actually come out today and said that they are hard at work on a number of game content initiatives that will help answer the questions, providing more clarity for those seeking further closure to their journey. And we're going to hear more on it next month. And he said that there's a bunch of criticism that has been very, very helpful in the creative process. And while I agree that, as gamers, we spend money on a game, feedback is something that is necessary. We have to kind of say what we think about it. Otherwise, they're not going to know what worked and what didn't. But there are definite ways to go about it, and threatening BioWare people and writers and staff with death because they ruined a video game is so far off base that it is mind-blowing and actually quite scary.
It's the entitlement generation. I mean, everybody growing up nowadays, they feel they're entitled to things, which I don't understand. But that's just the way it is, apparently. I mean, I don't watch a movie and then get disappointed at the ending and like create a petition to say you got to change the ending to Wolverine because that character is better than what you showed on the screen. I mean, and for people to think that they can that BioWare is going to listen to them, I mean, it just blows me away. Apparently BioWare is, which I don't even understand. Like you made a game, you're an artist, you had a beginning, you had a middle, you had an end. That's it. That's it. People can write fan fiction about FemShep and all the great people that she meets in the game or whatever, and I'm sure there is a lot of that stuff too. And it scares me to look, so I won't. But I mean, for BioWare to actually, I mean, they love their fans, and I get that. But for them to maybe change the way that the game ends, hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully they're going to do it in like a really cool way. I haven't beat the game. I'm not even done Mass Effect 2, and I don't even want to know anytime I see like Mass Effect 3 on like Twitter, I close my client. I don't want anything spoiled to me, so I got to get on this real fast. But I don't think I could really be disappointed in a game ending so much that I would put my name on a petition. That's just crazy.
No, yeah, I mean, and like I said, there are things that I wish were different, but the huge uphill battle that they had trying to write this game ending is, I don't think we've ever seen anything like this in video game history. It's one of the most ambitious projects ever in gaming, and it went off to such a fantastic end and a very exciting final chapter of the game.
Right.
That, while people might have some valid complaints, complaining to the federal government and filing a lawsuit that says,
FCC,
they
exactly. Promised me something else and they didn't deliver.
It's false advertising.
Give me
like,
a
are
break.
You out of your mind, people? Like, please just pull yourself in for a second and just look at how stupid you're being.
Yeah.
And granted, I think that it's a very this is kind of hard to say, but it might be a very dark day for the industry, the fact that BioWare has knelt again to the fans, because when Fallout 3 came out, a lot of fans hated the ending, and not because of the way the game ended, but just because they had to reload a previous save to play anything else in the world.
Yep.
And not every gamer is going to go through and on their first playthrough do every piece of side missions and quests and all that kind of stuff. They're going to stick to the story, and then when they beat it, unfortunately, you have to load a previous save before the end. And they changed
especially the way Fallout 3 did it. It didn't give you any warning that was in fact the last battle.
Yes.
It just kind of, you go in this area and it's like, oh, apparently I'm in a battle. And it's like, oh, credits. Okay, that doesn't make any sense.
So they changed the ending with a piece of DLC called Broken Steel, and made it so that, after that ending, the game continues and you're allowed to do more things, which I felt it's a different situation than this. I feel
it's not really changing the ending; it's changing the mechanic.
Yes, although they did have to change the ending to do so.
Yeah,
but
kind of.
It was a minor tweak essentially, and the fan reaction wasn't about the fact that they were mad about the story elements of the ending. They were mad about the actual, the gameplay of the ending. The fact that it ends and you're done, and then you got to go back and load a previous save. And if you had a previous save where you were right outside the room on the final battle, you actually are screwed. You have to go back and start again, which isn't everyone's cup of tea. So, I mean, I understand that. This is different. It's interesting that BioWare has, said that they're going to look at it. Although I think, for PR-wise, they're doing a good thing. They seem very committed to the fans, and I think this only goes to bolster that.
Right.
And I have the highest regard for BioWare and the games that they produce. I wish that it didn't have to be this way. But again, I know that I'm in the minority, and that's also really sad.
No, totally. Yeah. Hopefully they don't fully bow down towards the dissenting ranks, but hopefully they do something clever just to kind of have a choose your own adventure ending DLC or something where you can make whatever you want to happen, and you can be happy.
Yeah.
Something crazy like that to keep the whiners down. All right, cool. Well, let's get into quick hits. This is going to be a little section where we just rattle through a bunch of news, which is awesome, but not worth talking about more than telling you in a paragraph or so what this news is about. We're going to try to do this every episode. So if there's any stories you want us to cover, definitely let us know. First up, have you ever been worried about your home security? Well, thanks to the evil scientists over at ThinkGeek, you can now buy your very own turret from Portal. You know, those awesome little guys. I mean, who wouldn't want their very own singing and killing machine? Sadly, these won't sing or kill. But for $25, these blow-up replicas will be sure to scare away any would-be thieves better than your stuffed barking dog at any rate. So check that out. We'll put links to that at ThinkGeek in the show notes.
Yeah, really, really cool. I saw the pictures today and I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Remember how we said last week that Microsoft will likely not announce a new Xbox at E3?
Kind of recall that, yeah.
Yeah, it looks like we're right, and that's because we're the two most brilliant people on the face of the planet. In a statement released by Microsoft, it confirms that the sales of their current console are doing quite well, and that's what they're going to focus on, and we will not see an Xbox 720 this year. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you, Microsoft. Do you love some Draw Something on your iPad or iPhone, or even that Facebook site that a few people might have heard of? And you're hoping to see what the developer OMG Pop will come up with next? Me too. But seeing how today they were just bought by Zynga for $200 million, I am sure that whatever comes next will involve farming or some form of Vil or something like that. But I'm sure their funders are happily lighting their cigars with $1,000 bills since the independent company was funded to the tune of $17 million. So those funders are jumping for joy right now.
Well, there's the epitome of how microtransactions work and work well and can make you a millionaire.
$200 million off $17 million for a game, but Draw Something is actually pretty awesome. They are getting about 1 billion new drawings created a day or something stupid like that. Like it's a game that's played by a lot of people, so it makes sense.
And there's a really great blog. I can't remember what it's called, but there's a really fantastic blog out there that showcases some truly incredible pieces of art by touching the iPhone or the iPad and playing Draw Something. It is amazing. The skill level, and if I ever play it, it's like, that's a stick man. Be like, actually no, that's a house on fire, but that's the best I could do.
That's a stick man eating a popsicle. Come on.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Cool. All right, well, that's going to about do it for this episode of These Dudes on Games. Definitely let us know what you think. Actually, before we get to the end of the podcast about the game, Games on the Brain, we actually do have one question from our chat room, and it comes from Reflux. And his question is, have you ever played a game that you felt compelled to complete, as in gathering every single little tiny insignificant item or completing every quest, only to realize that you're completing the game to complete it and not because it's fun? So I thought I'd ask you that question, Jeff.
It's a good question. Now, there has been games where I have gone through and essentially, pulled every bit of content out of it. The Fallout world and Fallout 3 is one. Like I said, got every achievement, every piece of DLC, and did literally every side quest that you can do. And then, of course, afterwards, I wanted to play more, but there wasn't anything to do. So I would invent quests in my head. Like, I have to collect every lunchbox with the Nuka-Cola kid on there, and I've got to get everyone inside my house. But to play a game to that extreme and not think it's fun, I have never done. And I hope I never have to either. Yeah,
I used to back in the day before I had kids, and I had like large swaths of time where I'd go pick up a game on the weekend and say, this game sucks, but I'm going to get my money out of it. And I'd sit there and I'd complete everything. It was actually made even worse when the 360 came out, because achievements were like visual representations of all the stuff that you've achieved. So I would basically play a game and try to get every single achievement that I could.
Like gaming crack to me. As soon as one pops up on the screen, I'm like, I have to look at what I did to get that, and then find out what else I need to do to get more.
I'm the same way. And thankfully I had kids, and my craziness kind of went away because I don't have time. I've only platinumed one game on my PS3, and that was Infamous 2, which is a kind of recent game. So I'm not an achievement whore anymore, which is a good thing. But that would probably be about the only time in my life was pre-kids, when I had time, and there was so many like terrible games. I mean, even back to the N64 game, like playing through like Donkey Kong and Banjo-Kazooie.
Yeah.
Not that the games were bad, but I'd get to the point where I'd beat the game, and I would enjoy it, but then it's like, but there's like a million puzzle pieces and little glowing things that I have to go, and I'd go back and I'd just play the game as often as I had to actually get every single thing in the game. But more of those games were just because I had nothing else better to do, so I was doing it just to pass the time.
Also a different time back then too, right? Where, if I couldn't find a piece, it was essentially a war of attrition against the game. I just had to play and play and play until I found it. Yep. There wasn't a GameFAQs.com where I could go and look if I got too frustrated and find that, which I only did once in the Fallout DLC for the pit. I had to find all 100 steel ingots across the land.
Right.
And there was one I couldn't find, and I had found 99 on my own terms, just doing the best I could. And then it was like, I just don't care enough. I just want the achievement. I just want to get out of this. I want to, go to bed. And
for me, that was Crackdown with all the agility orbs. It's like, I got to find all these. I need them all. And it's like, I got to the point where I printed out a map and I'd go to every section and I'd cross them off on my map until I finally found like the 3 that I was missing. It was sad time. Dark days.
I'm still a big achievement whore. Like I'm closing in on 30,000 gamer score now.
Nice.
And it's not called platinum, but I've completed all the achievements for only 2 games, and that was Fallout 3, which I got 1,550 out of 1,550 on, and then the video game Lost via Damus for the TV show Lost.
Yep.
But that was one playthrough, and I got every single achievement, and it was not hard. It was a crap game, but it was one that was like they just shovel achievements at you. But once in a while, I want to go to PNP Games and pick up King Kong or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, because those games, like, you beat them and you get 1,000. It's like I just bump up that score.
That's what I was about to say. Like, you're not sick in the head until you've bought games off of eBay just to get achievements, and I've done that in the past, my past life, my past craziness. Thankfully, I'm not doing that anymore, except on the iPad. I do that on the iPad. I download a game that I know is easy to get 500 achievement points or gamer score or whatever you want to call it. And I do that. I guess I still have a bit of the sickness ingrained in the fiber of my body.
You'll never get rid of it.
Nope. All right. Well, thanks to Reflex for that question. And if you would like us to read out your question on the show, definitely do send us an email. Head on over to vgpodcast.com. Click contact us at the top of the page to send us an email. Our email address, if you want to email us directly, is vgpodcasts@gmail.com, or you can even call our voicemail line, which is great. It's in the U.S., so if you have free calling in the U.S., call 505-VG-Podcasts. You don't have to dial the STS at the end, of course. Or even better, if you have a Gmail account, you can make free long-distance phone calls to anything in North America, any phone number in Canada or the U.S., just dial it and talk to us from your computer. Really awesome that way. Or you can even record yourself talking, asking a question, and email it to us at vgpodcast@gmail.com, and we'll play it in future episodes of the show.
Cool.
All right, guys. Well, thanks to Jeff and everybody that tuned into the live show, and thanks to everybody that's subscribing to the podcast. We actually have an iTunes feed now, so if you are listening to this just by direct subscription to the RSS feed or through the website, if you head on over to vgpodcast.com/tdog, you can actually find out what the RSS subscription is or the iTunes feed is, and subscribe to the show and get this gaming awesomeness directly piped into your brain once a week automatically through whatever podcatcher you like to use.
I want to mention one quick thing before we leave here. I was listening to Touch of Gaming last week that you guys recorded on Thursday, I believe.
Yep.
And your wife, Kara, lovely lady, but just given us the treatment on the name of this show.
She doesn't like it. She still doesn't like it.
She does not like it.
I was coming downstairs. I'm like, going to record these dudes on games. She's like, oh yeah, have fun with that T-Dog. I'm like, what? It's awesome. Come on.
I enjoy the name.
It makes me giggle, and that's all that matters.
That's exactly what she says. That's all that matters.
She's just shaking her head and letting me think that I'm right, just like wives do sometimes.
We should challenge her to come up with a better name, though.
I'll pass it on to her. I'll make her listen to the show and say, you do better.
Yeah.
No, I won't, because I'll get
Watch
my ass
her just
kicked.
blow us out of the water, though. Like, the first name she comes up with is like just this fantastic name that we wish we had come up with.
Probably, because that's how she works, and that's part of the reason why I married her, I guess, because she's awesome that way. All right, man. Well, thanks, Jeff, and thanks for everybody that's tuned in and listening. Definitely let us know what you think of the show, but stay tuned for next week's These Dudes on Games.
Very exciting times.
Later, everybody.